welcome. This is my name is Sharia Jimenez. I also go by Shay. We're here to introduce a project that we have been working on as a team. We have a lot of partners who are all with us today. The Pima County Community Land Trust, myself with Cuadro, and the City of Tucson also is here today helping explain the changes to the zoning and some support that will be available in the future. So in the interest of time, Wes, did you want to go over the guidelines?
Yes, I can jump into the guidelines. So we're going to be hearing from all of our partners today and then going into more about our the Mi Casita program specifically. So we just have a few guidelines for this info session. We have a lot to cover, and we also really want to make sure we have time for question and answer at the end. So we are disabling the chat until the question and answer session, so we can kind of just save it all to the end and keep the presentation moving. But definitely make note of your questions and feel free to ask them when we open up for that session later. So this is an info session for Tucsonans who are interested in the construction of casitas. This is not a space for debating the merits of the ADU ordinance. We're specifically talking about the logistics of making casitas. The session will cover the city's new ADU ordinance and Mi Casita's efforts to develop programs and strategies for supporting homeowners to build ADUs while identifying pathways for affordability. Your relevant questions and comments are welcome and will help us shape the future of this work. So please feel free to ask questions at the end, and we'll get started.
Okay, so thank you so much, Wesley. So I'll just jump right in here. Again, like I said, this project we're just kicking this off. So this information is going to be very brief and a lot thrown at you at once. So please be patient with us. Like I said, I'm with Cuadro. The Pima County Community Land Trust is also here, and the City of Tucson. And our core team also includes Jessica, who's helping represent PICLIT, which is the Pima County Community Land Trust. Myself, Wesley, and Maggie and Gigi, who are the directors. We have been awarded a multi-year funding for our staff time to help provide technical assistance and support for the community as we figure out how to go about empowering our community members to develop casita projects on their lots. So our project goals, one is to increase the number of affordable housing units, create generational wealth and housing stability by creating income properties for homeowners, create opportunities for shared housing costs through intergenerational or extended family living, work towards the creation of mixed income neighborhoods by offering a variety of housing types, combat predatory developers and flippers from further gentrifying neighborhoods by empowering homeowners to develop their own lots and reap those economic benefits, and encourage small scale, locally led development, and explore the potential of incorporating ADUs into the community land trust model to maximize the impact of the ordinance and benefit PICLIT's mission. Okay, so now I'm gonna let Gigi and Maggie jump in and explain a little bit more about the Community Land Trust, Pima County Community Land Trust, and what they do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Amado Reyes, and I'm the Executive Director of the Pima County Community Land Trust. And yes, it's a mouthful, and people call it PICLIT. I used to hate calling it PICLIT. It reminded me of Piglet, and now I'm embracing it because Pima County Community Land Trust is just long. So basically, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about Pima County. I only have 10 minutes, and I can probably do this in 5, so bear with me. Pima County Community Land Trust, first of all, we are a non-profit, community-based organization. We are not county. We are not government. We're a nonprofit. We were incorporated in 2010 and actually by the City of Tucson during the financial crisis, the housing crisis, if you all recall, where a lot of houses were foreclosed on, and you saw blocks and blocks of blighted neighborhoods and blocks of boarded up homes. The City of Tucson and the county knew that they would be receiving federal funds called NSP funds, or Neighborhood Stabilization Program funds, to be able to purchase these foreclosed properties and rehab them and sell them to low and moderate income households under the community land trust model. And I'll tell you briefly what that is. So we were able, without that original funding, to purchase 89 homes. And those 89 homes have now helped, I'm really bad with the math, but 112 low and moderate income households achieve home ownership. We have subsequently been able to build 5 new homes here on the west side. We're about to finish our last house under the community land trust model, very affordable, brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath, gorgeous homes. So total, we've been able to help about 117 low and moderate income households achieve home ownership through the community land trust. We've been able to revitalize, 30 neighborhoods. We've invested almost $13 million into the community. And now we also been able to either build or acquire 21 affordable rental opportunities. And it's a mix between, they're all actually single family, and we have a 4-plex. And for those that are not yet ready or able or even willing to buy a house. In 2019, we became a HUD-approved housing counseling agency. And what that is basically we see people at all of their housing needs, whether they're homeowners and they're facing foreclosure, or they're a family wanting to purchase their first home, or a tenant who wants to, be a better tenant. We provide one-on-one housing counseling, education, and monetary assistance. So we help people through that process. Today I'm here to talk to you really briefly on what is a community land trust. So basically, Pima County, there are 250 community land trusts across the country, and even more, I don't even know, across the world. And it's a really cool program, especially in neighborhoods or communities where there is a lack of affordable housing, and that's what we're really talking about today. What we do that's different is when we sell a house, we sell the improvement or the house, and we enter into a very long-term lease, a 99-year ground lease for the land. So you're not purchasing the land, but you're not paying for it. So you get a discount in the purchase price because you're purchasing it via what's called the leasehold purchase. You're purchasing a house with a leasehold interest in the land for 99 years. It's pretty long. In addition, we have a lot of subsidies that are put into these homes when we're building them. We ask for wish grants, the original NSP funds that came into for our first 89 homes, making it really affordable for people. So it's a great program. The ground lease also ensures owner occupancy. It's a requirement, and the responsibilities of the homeowner. And then other really important facet of that is the resale formula. And this is how we have been able to keep these homes affordable. And that's the key to a community land trust, is the permanency. It's affordable. They are affordable from one buyer to the next. And the resale formula, what it does is we reuse and we recycle these subsidies, and then we actually grow them because a homeowner agrees to only keep 25% of their increase in value while they're living. They can sell their home whenever they want, but they can keep 25%. 75% is put back into the house, benefiting that next family. So we're able to reuse, recycle, and grow the subsidies, actually making them more affordable from one buyer to the next. So in a nutshell, that is what a community land trust does. It is permanent affordability, and more importantly, it's taking these houses out of the market, in a sense of that they're not becoming so expensive that people can't purchase them. And of course, everyone has to be on the same page, and they have to agree to share that equity and what they get is, of course, a gorgeous home with no down payment, reduced purchase price because they're not purchasing the land, and a reduced mortgage because there's a lot of subsidies in there that, again, are reused, recycled, and grown. So that's really it. That's the model. It's been really, really successful. We've, those additional 23 homeowners that we have been able to help have benefited from the same subsidies, if not more, and actually they become even more affordable. And then this next slide is basically, shows fee simple versus leasehold. So it's just, the difference. People, down the street might own the house and the land, and that's called fee simple. And when you buy a house through a community land trust, it's a leasehold. You're purchasing the house on leased land, a 99-year lease, and you have a leasehold interest in the land. And that, I think, is it for me. I think I've made all the salient points. It's a brief thing. I think later on there will be some focus groups that talk more in depth about what this program does. We are really excited to see how community land trusts can incorporate an ADU, and that's one of the things that we will be working on, and really excited for that. So thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you, Jessica, Shay, and Wesley, for putting this together today. So thanks. Short. Oh, back to you, Shay.
All right, thank you so much. Sorry, I forget that I'm sharing the screen, so let me put it back to full screen. And our next speaker will be the City of Tucson. Corin Manning will be here to explain the ordinance and the changes for us.
Thank you, and hello everyone. I'm Corin Manning, Development Services, and I want to give everyone an update on some of the recent zoning changes related to accessory dwelling units. I also want to mention that Dan Versick is also here with PSD. He was also working on this project, so either of us are happy to answer questions after we go through regulations, just so everybody is on the same page about what is now allowed in terms of casitas in Tucson.
Sorry, here I got I lost my windows here.
No problem, and I can also share if that's easier.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, great. Many folks who are here tonight have probably been very involved in this process. I know a lot of you have been participating in community workshops and meetings about accessory dwelling units. But for folks who might not have been as aware or involved, we actually just had a pretty big change to our zoning code related to accessory dwelling units or casitas. Zoning is basically the set of regulations that governs what you can do on your property or on any property in the city, what you can build, how big, what types of uses, etc. So we just changed our zoning to make it easier to build casitas across Tucson. They're now allowed on residential lots all across the city. And I'll share a little bit more about that. This was just adopted by our mayor and council last month in December. So on December 7th, they adopted this change to our zoning code, and then that change just went into effect as of last week. So these new regulations are now in place, and that's what we'll be discussing more tonight. This zoning change came after extensive community input over the past year. We've been meeting with a group of stakeholders, which included architects, developers, housing advocates, and many others. We also held a number of public meetings and got input from over 400 community members who attended those meetings, and also did a community survey to get input and got tremendous response there as well. Any change in zoning is reviewed by the City Planning Commission as well as Mayor and Council. So there was numerous hearings on this proposal before it was voted on by Mayor and Council and ultimately adopted. And we had very strong community participation throughout this entire process. Next slide. So just what is a casita or accessory dwelling unit? These are a few examples of the different forms they can take. It can be detached from the house. That's the most classic or typical example, where it's a freestanding casita in the backyard, but it can also be attached to the house or be a portion of the house that is converted to be its own space, such as a garage or attic. Next slide. So this just gives you a timeline of the process to adopt this change to our zoning. As I mentioned, it was about a 1-year process. Mayor and Council initiated this actually in 2020, November 2020. And then after extensive input and engagement through community outreach and with our stakeholder group, we brought a proposal to Mayor and Council just about a year later. And it was ultimately adopted last December in 2021. Next slide. So a lot of the reason that we took on this code change and took these steps to basically legalize casitas was to reflect that this is a zoning type that has existed in Tucson for many years. We see casitas across our community. In some cases, those have been allowed by zoning. I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. In other cases, they may have been built as a garage or shed originally, and then over time became used as a living space. We saw this across the community and realized this is a way people in Tucson are already meeting housing needs, and we wanted to make it easier to build these. So that's one of the big reasons that Mayor and Council took this step, to make it easier to build casitas. The next slide is another example just showing that this is a housing type that exists in Tucson and has existed for quite a while. And just shows you what cozy, lovely spaces these can be. Despite being small in many cases, they're often very well crafted, well designed, and can be lovely living spaces for a variety of household types. Next slide. I mentioned that we got inputs with workshops, surveys, a lot of different methods. So I wanted to just share that this is one thing we heard over and over. We really heard a lot of interest in casitas, and I think that's why we have so many people with us tonight. Throughout this process, I think a lot of people just really saw this as something that is by no means an answer to our housing needs in Tucson, but is one way that we can make it easier for people to provide housing for their family, for tenants, just add to our housing stock. So this gives you the results of our community survey, where we heard loud and clear that most people felt this would benefit our community. So there's very strong support for this zoning change and this housing type in Tucson. Next slide. So prior to this zoning change, why did we do this to make it easier? Before, there were a couple ways to add a casita in your backyard, but it was by no means simple. Two things were allowed. One is a sleeping quarters or a guest house. But in those cases, and those are allowed on residential lots, in those cases, no kitchen is allowed. That's really the key thing. So this could not be an independent living space, which makes it easier. It makes it harder if you want to actually have a family member there and have independence and really have it feel like a fully separate unit. Another option is on some large lots across Tucson, depending what zone you're in and how large your lot is, you can build a second unit. But again, this is pretty limited, and we only see, previously this was really only an option on much larger lots, not most lots across the city. So that's how you might have seen some casitas built before this recent change in zoning. Next slide. So, what we wanted to do is make it easier and make it accessible to pretty much anyone in Tucson. So what the new regulations allow is that any lots that is a residential lot, meaning a lot that has currently a single family home or a duplex, 2 homes, can build 1 ADU or casita. And that ADU can be up to 10% of the lot size. So if you have an 8,000 square foot lot, you can do an 800 square foot casita with a maximum of 1,000 square feet. And there is a baseline of 650 square feet. So even if your lot is under 6,500 square feet, you can do at least a 650 square foot casita. Any lot can do at least 650 square feet. There's a few other requirements. There's 1 parking space required and a cool roof to promote sustainability. And the casitas are also limited to 12 feet on most lots if there's a 1-story house, or up to the height of the primary structure if you have a 2-story home. I'll go through these in a little more detail. Next slide. So I know some of you are really excited to get into the design and actually think about how you would add a casita to your own property. So I mentioned before, ADUs or casitas are allowed on any lot with a single family or 2 family residence. So if you have, typical single family home, you're allowed 1 casita, duplex, same. So this would not be allowed on commercial properties, industrial properties, or multifamily. So this is not allowed on, a lot that has an apartment complex or multifamily units. Next slide. And then the actual size of the casita, sorry, it's showing up a little blurry. But I mentioned before, the maximum size is 10% of the lot size with a minimum of 650, or a baseline really, and then up to 1,000 square feet. So even if your lot is over 10,000 square feet, you're limited to 1,000 square feet for your casita. Although there's some caveats there, because depending on the size of your lot, you may be able to do what would really be a second unit. But generally the rule of thumb is 10% of your lot size is the maximum size of your casita. Next slide. Heights, again, 12 feet. So, and that's our standard kind of 1-story maximum height. If your existing primary structure is 2 stories, though, you can go a little taller up to the height of your primary structure. Next slide. And then there's some other things to keep in mind if you're designing a casita for your site. There are what's called setbacks, meaning any structure on your site has to be set back from property lines. Usually that's 6 feet in your rear and side yards. If your casita is taller, it would need to be more than that. If it's a 2-story casita, it would need to be a little taller, set back a little more. So setbacks, and then you also need to keep in mind what's called lot coverage, which is generally 70% of lot size. That's the maximum amount of area that you can cover with buildings. So that would be your primary structure and your casita. And next slide. And I also want to mention that we do have a handout that goes through a lot of these requirements. I can share that in the chat later once it opens, or Jessica or someone else might be able to share that in the chat so people can follow along that way. 1 parking space is required for your casita, with some caveats, which is that if you are within a quarter mile of a transit line or what we call an enhanced bike infrastructure, like something like the 3rd Street bike path or Mountain Ave bike path, you do not need to provide parking. If parking is required and there is parking available on the street, you can also use that. So there's some flexibility there around parking, because we know it's difficult to add to certain sites. Next slide. And then I mentioned before, there is a requirement for a cool roof. This would be a roof that meets a minimum standard for solar reflectance, meaning reflecting heat back away from your structure so that you're not heating your structure or adding to urban heat island effect. That's something that there's a lot of different options for how to meet that requirement, many of which are not costly whatsoever. So this shouldn't add considerably to construction costs. And again, there's a lot of different materials and ways to meet this requirement. Next slide. I do want to mention that there's other requirements you need to think about if you're building a casita in certain types of neighborhoods. So if you are within a neighborhood that is a historic preservation zone or a neighborhood preservation zone, then you also need to look at design standards specific to your neighborhood. So the examples of historic preservation zones are the West University neighborhood, Armory Park, El Presidio, and then neighborhood preservation zones are Feldman's or Jefferson Park. If you're in one of those neighborhoods, you also need to comply with certain design standards for your neighborhood that align with ADU requirements, but just need to be another factor that you think about. Next slide. And then when this was adopted by Mayor and Council, they also directed staff to develop supportive programs and technical assistance and resources to support ADU development and make sure that ADUs are affordable and attainable for our community. And that's really what we are here to discuss tonight. So this is a really key piece of the program in our minds. And we're really excited to see the Mi Casita program taking off and other work in our community around kind of bringing assistance to folks who are interested in building casitas and making this process one that is easy for people to go through. We're excited about working with the team, the Mi Casita team, and helping in any way. We're also working on an amnesty program because we know there's a lot of casitas across the city that may not be permitted because they weren't previously allowed by zoning in a lot of cases. And so we're looking at how to allow people to get those permitted, bring them into conformance, make sure they're safe units, and make sure those are units that can then add to our housing stock. So next slide. So those are some of the things we're working on now that this zoning change is in place and casitas are permitted across the city. Work on that amnesty program, collaborating with community partners to hopefully develop some model plans. So we're looking at ways to make casita development easier and lower cost by providing free plans that community members can use, free or low cost plans, so that you don't have to start from scratch and kind of reinvent a design for every casita. We think there's a lot of ways that standard plans can help people. And then doing outreach and education like this, really want to make sure people understand what the new rules are and what they can build on their sites. And then we're also going to be tracking the impact of this ordinance over time so that we can keep track of what's being built, any challenges that are rising for people so that we can tweak as needed, make some changes to the regulations if we need to in a year or two, to make sure that it's really working for Tucson, for our residents and neighborhoods, and that this is something that is adding to our housing stock and adding to our residents' lives and enhancing our neighborhoods across Tucson. So with that, I think we're going to go into some of the ways that some of the financial assistance the city is also able to provide.
Okay, great. Is Ray on the line with us?
Yeah, and I believe Ray is on the line, and Sheree, I'm going to just kick off this item real quick. So hi, everyone. Good evening. My name's Ann Chineka. I'm with the City of Tucson Housing and Community Development Department. And with that, many of you know what housing and community development does. We really want to support affordable housing in our community, and we also want to support, in particular, lower income households gain additional funding. So that was why we're really excited about the ADU ordinance. As we were thinking about ways that HCD may support the amendment and support those goals sooner than later, we figured we already have a homeowner rehabilitation program to help low-income households make improvements within existing homes. And so building off of that, we have created this program, and I'm going to turn it over soon to Ray Kiwis to describe in more detail. But wanted to give a couple of caveats. So you see the draft watermark on this. We're looking at kicking this program off in July. We still need to go through the funding process to get the funding that we plan on using approved. And so looking at kicking the program off in July. And so we're still figuring out some of the details on how the program's going to work. We're happy to answer questions, but our response may be we're still figuring that out. And then with that, we are planning on using a funding source, a federal funding source, community development grant funding, which means community development block grant funding, which means there are some limitations on what we can and can't do. And then really looking at this as a pilot and how we can support lower income households in improving their ADUs. And so hopefully it goes well this first year and it will inform future years. But I'm going to ask Ray Kiwis to go through this sheet quickly. Ray has been overseeing our rehabilitation program for the City of Tucson. So him and his team will be the ones actually that know way more about how this is going to work. So with that, I would love Ray to jump in.
Thank you very much, Ann. Good evening, everyone. Ray Kiwis again, City of Tucson. Our basic approach to this is running it like one of our housing rehabilitation programs, which is going into existing units and making all the necessary repairs to keep them healthy, to keep them safe and up to code. The purpose of this program, of course, is to provide any kind of technical assistance to low-income homeowners through this ADU program or pilot program. We've set aside $250,000 for this, and we're hoping to help at least 12 low-income families who have existing ADU units on their property and who are living on the property to assist those families with the improvements that are needed. Of course, as mentioned earlier, the pilot program is contingent upon the Mayor and Council adoption of the 2022 Annual Action Plan that's tentatively scheduled for April of 2022. So property eligibility, City of Tucson would, for City of Tucson, it would be homeowners with an existing ADU unit, a structure on their property, and who meet the household income eligibility requirements outlined on this slide. In instances where the ADU is not currently permitted, the eligibility is also contingent upon participation of the amnesty program that was previously mentioned also by Corin. The mortgage, another requirement would be that the mortgage and property taxes must be current and the property must be free from any delinquent liens. And of course, the household income is 80% of the area median income. And you'll see that a family of one would qualify with $38,450. Those income limits may change. They tend to change in March or April. So by the time we get this pilot kicked off, the income limits may change just a little bit. And it's in the favor of, usually in the favor of the families, the income limits go up a little bit. And so with liquid assets, the applicant cannot exceed $20,000 per household. Liquid assets are like cash in hand, savings accounts, US bonds, stocks. Liquid assets that would exceed $20,000, they would be ineligible for the assistance. The terms of the program, just like our other programs, the eligible improvements would go up to $20,000. Anything over $10,000 would be a 10-year forgivable lien for any amount over that $10,000, and the ADU is requiring an estimated repair that exceeds $20,000 would not be funded. There may be just an instance where the unit might need 40, 50, 60,000, and we just won't be able to assist with the rehabilitation. Some of the cool improvements that we could do are assisting with kitchens and bathrooms and gas repair, water repair, sewer, electrical, heating, cooling, a lot of the stuff that you see on the list that are very important to maintaining the home, to maintaining the value, to maintaining its stability in the neighborhood and longevity, and also a safe and healthy, keeping it a safe and healthy home. And then if there's any waivers, you know, as we said earlier, this is a private pilot program, so requests for waivers will be an opportunity for requests for waivers that could be made for special circumstances that we might find that we're not sure what we'll run into yet, but will be subject by a review committee and HCD director approval. Thanks for your time this evening. It's great to see, have all you guys here, and looking forward to moving this program forward, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ray. We'll keep it moving here. We're trying to save half an hour here at the end for question and answer, so we'll try to be brief in our next slides. I'm just gonna go over real quick some of our strategies that we're looking at. So again, we're asking for everyone's patience because we're developing a program. The program is not developed yet. And so what we'll be doing in the next 6 months, you know, or so is holding focus groups to really find out which potential incentives are gonna make the most impact for the homeowners that we're working with. So you know, we're seeing other ADU affordability programs roll out throughout the country, and they offer a variety of incentives. Some of them are zoning incentives, some are about reducing your soft costs, which are like your permit fees or your impact fees or utility fees even potentially. And then of course, a lot of the programs are offering technical assistance, which would be pre-approved plans that would be less expensive and save you time, both time and money, because if they're approved already, you don't have to wait 3 or 4 months for the approval process for this from the city. And then of course, we're going to be looking out for grant funding, hopefully as well, to help and assist people in building these units. And then of course, there's a carrot and a stick. We can't give away incentives for an affordability program without asking for some commitment to affordability. So again, what we're seeing in other communities, the potential affordability requirements could be, this is all in theory, but this is what we want to vet out and discuss with community members. It could be a commitments to housing Section 8 tenants, commitments to, people who might want to join the community land trust and decide that's a good path for them, commitments to afford just affordable rents that are agreed on. I think it's also important to mention that if there's just a family or a medical need, that could be something also that gets taken into consideration. And then of course, income qualifications is another way people work towards trying to meet affordability. So as I mentioned before, we've been doing our research, and there's kind of 2 paths that affordable programs offer in the United States. What we typically see is kind of a higher middle income homeowner that already has a large house, building in a small casita for a lower income tenant. But we're also seeing some lower income families that have a house and an asset. We keep saying there's these homeowners out there who are cash poor but house rich, where their house might now be worth a lot of money, but they don't necessarily have the cash on hand or the capital to build one of these. But if we could come up with a creative loan program that could cover the gap of construction, maybe then once they build the unit, now they have income because they have an income stream now with the rent. So maybe there's a way for a lower income homeowner to be, in a sense, subsidized by the rent of a casita. So this was an idea that got us really excited because, again, we saw this as a way to help neighbors stay in place. So the program that does the first kind of option that I mentioned, where you have kind of maybe higher income tenants subsidizing lower income tenants. This program is called the Backyard Homes Pilot Program by LA Mas. And you can look them up. We'll put the link in the chat after this. And the Elevation Community Land Trust in Denver is offering the latter model, where they're pairing this idea with the land trust model, and the land trust, the participant, the homeowner, gets to build the casita, and then they can really set the pricing from there. Some people, one of the case studies I read are testimonials. The tenant was, or the homeowner was actually, they weren't even renting. They were offering free rent. So it really is really varied, and it's just seems like a very flexible, and the casitas are a very flexible tool for homeowners, whether they have extra cash or whether they don't. So the next slide really goes over our process and what we'll be doing throughout the next year. We'll be hosting a series of focus groups to really dive into all the complexities of the issues of building one of these, and we're gonna kind of follow the flow of a project. So starting with finance, we'll be hosting focus groups around, trying to understand how we can best fund this on the private side with loan programs, and talk to folks about that. Then we'll be looking at permitting, and then construction. We really want to meet with small builders and people who are interested in building these. There's a few of you in the room, I know, so I'm excited about this one as well, because I think having a referral list of trusted, reputable builders will be really important resource for folks as well. Rental, we want to look at it from the rental angle. We want to look at the amnesty and the legalization issues for people who have already built these. And then we want to host protect, we say, it's about looking at that long-term affordability with how we can pair a land trust model with some of these projects. So this is our rough timeline. Spring and summer we'll be doing the focus groups. Summer, fall, we'll be looking at curriculum development. And then in the spring, we'll be looking at the escuelita. So Jessica, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica, and I'm working with the Pima County Community Land Trust. So just to go over this slide a little bit in more detail, while we're running the focus group campaign, we will also be meeting with our partners, new and existing, to help us meet the needs that are identified by those participating with us in the focus groups. In the summer and fall, based on what we've learned together, we'll begin developing a curriculum for our Escuelita program, the ADU school. And I'll share a little bit more about that right now. If you can go over to the next slide, please. Let me see. So as we move forward and continue to hear back from community and partners, I'm sure the details of each topic will grow and will become more focused. So following this model, we'll continually wrap back around to community members and the focus groups so that we meet the needs and fill the gaps. That way we can ensure access to all, including low to moderate income homeowners. And we want to make sure that folks can navigate the whole process. The Escuelita, ADU Escuelita will be an intensive course for those interested in developing a casita. And by offering this support, we hope to demystify the building process, develop financial pathways and incentives, and promote the successful independent construction of ADUs. We'll continue developing and offering this course for 3 years. And in doing so, we hope to create a network of local casita experts who can in turn share the knowledge. And if you're interested in being a part of the focus groups or partner meetings, you'll have an opportunity to let us know in a poll that we have, we're gonna post here after the presentation that we'd like you to help us out with. And we really look forward to this process and working with all of you. Thank you very much. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Jessica. So next, I'm just gonna breeze through this slide. As part of our process, we hope also some folks will be interested in sharing their stories, and we'd love to get some of that on recording. And I think that the case studies and learning from people who have already done this or who want to do this, I think is a great way for us all to learn. So that'll be part of our process as well. Okay, so the next, I think that's it. Are we done? Did we get through it?
We have a few more slides, but oh yeah, we don't need to play the video. Yeah, so I wanted to just add, and we're gonna see some of today's design work in action right here. But also, yeah, if anyone is undergoing this process, we really want to document it and use it for teaching others how to navigate the process. So if it's in your plans, get in touch with us. But yeah, Shay, why don't you share the progress of this project?
Oh yes, this is a project I have under construction right now, and it's in Dunbar Spring, and it's been really cool to see how quickly these can go up, especially with a licensed general contractor on board and someone with experience. This has gone up in less than 4 months, and if again, like I said, if we had pre-approved plans, we could have cut down the time by half. It took about almost 4 or 5 months to get the permit. And then another, will probably be another 4 or 5 months in construction. So it's exciting because these really can be rapidly deployed, even if they're site built and even if they're custom. So if we can make some of those processes more efficient, imagine how much faster we could again be responding to the need. So it's very exciting. Then we're gonna take a little break here to take a poll. Are we opening up can we open up the chat? We'll open up the chat here, and if you could, we'll take, I think that because of where are we at with time? Actually, we're really great. We've got half an hour left. So I think what we decided was we'll go ahead and start fielding questions now. But if you could, please take a moment to also, while you're waiting for your question, please fill out the survey. It'll really help us and give us your contact information to stay involved as we go along this process together.
Exactly. And yeah, that link has just been posted to the chat. And yeah, if everyone could take a moment to just open that and get poised to fill that out for us. We'll also send the link out in a follow-up email. But yeah, the information that you can provide us with that survey is going to be so helpful as we kind of move forward and figure out how to best tailor our programming. Yeah, and then now the chat is open. So I think folks can either put their any questions they might have into the chat. There's a lot of participants, so using hand up might be a little tricky. But yeah, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, whatever you need, we just want to facilitate a discussion now.
I'd like to ask a question if I could.
Yes, go ahead.
So anticipating this, I've been following up or following this for months. I have a Arizona room that I want to make into a 1-bedroom to move in my mother-in-law, who's in Section 8 housing right now in a bad neighborhood. So I want to move her in with us, but I want her to have her. She won't move in unless she has her own place. So I've already submitted the plans. I'm waiting for. So I did it in anticipation. So I put in the kitchen and a bathroom and a small laundry room. And I didn't know if when I submit those, I've already submitted the plans, if there was a chance that would be approved, or they're just going to kick it back because this isn't in effect yet. So that's my first question. I have a really quick question after that, if it can be answered.
Yeah, so if you're submitting this as an ADU, it should be fine. I mean, of course, there's other zoning issues and building code issues. You need to comply with all those regulations. So there might still be some comments but this new ordinance to allow casitas is now in effect. All of our staff and zoning reviewers are aware. So they will be reviewing it with that eye that, you know, a second unit is permitted.
Okay, so I don't, good. So I was just anticipating that they would be rejecting it because it's not in effect yet. So that's good news. My second real quick question is, so the assistance on the, to help get this built, right now I'm strapped for money and just doing whatever money I get, I put into this. So if I start this now, is the funding available now to help me fund this? Or is, if what I heard right, it's not going to be ready for a few months to help get funded? And if that's the case, if there's like grandfathered in where I can get helping even if I've already started the project.
I'm happy to jump in there and say what I'll do is I'll put my contact information in the chat. I would say reach out to us. I think that there could be a chance, but the program, the funding will not be available until July 1, but there is a potential chance to be able to help based on the description you outlined. So I'll put my contact information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me directly.
I appreciate it, because if I don't get the help, it'll be a year and a half of just scraping the money up and doing it little piecemeal, and she won't be able to get out of where she's at for that long. So I appreciate that. I'll look in the chat. Sorry to take all the time.
How do you put a hand up? Hello?
You can ask something, Laura.
Hello. I'm a little confused about, you know, at the beginning when you had these screens, when you talk, you know, what I read about it was aging in place, affordable housing, but there's no money being talked about. You just alone, just looking at those 1, 2, 3, 4 members of a household and the gross, it's insanely low. I mean, it will just, I'm middle class, but I have different revenue streams, but that's gross. By the time you get to net, it's much lower. So I hope that you do change some of what is considered affordable. If you do one size fits all, I think it's going to be a mess. That's one thing. To what would be considered an affordable rent for, let's say, a 2-bedroom casita. That's 1,000 square feet with 1 or even 2 bathrooms. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out. What is that we have before you can? I have a little rental for other human beings that I rent out. That's not an Airbnb, and I have, you know, there are 2 1-bedrooms, and they're at, one is $675, another is $700, and another is a studio for $600. What is the new normal with rent prices? Everything has gone up tremendously. Got to have some kind of range of what is considered affordable housing. Do we have any, does anybody know?
So Laura, can I jump in here? So these are great points to bring up. And I think that this would be a perfect discussion when we get into the rental focus group. And I completely agree. And that's why I mentioned, remember that slide at the beginning where I said that this is also, actually the programs that have primarily rolled out across the country are aimed more at the middle class to build the units, because you have access to capital and you can qualify for a loan. And so what typically happens in those programs is there's some type of loan program that's created that's low interest, that's very accessible for folks who have traditional income stream, you know, as the banks want to see you have an income, right? So that's I think is part of what we'll be looking at, right? And hope to hear from folks like yourself who are in that income bracket. We also
the only reason I bring myself up is I fall through every donut hole when it comes to help. The city has never helped me at all. Not for 1 second. I'm not asking right now for help. I'm asking to find out. I mean, where can I go if I want to be in a focus group to talk to? Is there some link here that I can see so I can call someone when this is over?
Yes, we have your email, so we'll be following up with you with those dates for sure. Yes.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
I'm just going to interject a little bit. So part of, I think, the issue that the question that she had was, it's tied to federal money. So when these programs are receiving federal dollars, the federal government are the ones that set those income, even though they are ridiculously low. And I think everybody is in agreement there. But the second that federal money is applied to these programs, then you have to follow federal guidelines. And the numbers that we saw on the worksheet, those were federal guideline numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We had some people with their hands up for a while. Laura, is that all for you for right now?
Oh, of course, I could go on forever, but there are many people, I'm sure. So, you know, hopefully someone will get in touch with me after.
Yes, we'd love to have this discussion more in depth with you for sure. Thank you. Brian, or?
Yeah. So my question is, I've heard that prefabricated homes that are built in like a factory, shipped to a property, and put on a permanent foundation are more efficient or more environmentally friendly and stuff like that. I'm just curious if there's any kind of special concerns with doing something like that, if that would count as an ADU, things like that.
Right. So I have Corin step in here as well, but I believe that as soon as it's on a foundation, it's considered a second dwelling. It's still considered a tiny home. There's nothing wrong with doing a tiny home and ordering one and getting one shipped to you. And I think it's another great solution, but as long as it's on wheels, it actually doesn't require permitting, or it has to be under 200 square feet is the caveat. Corin, do you want to?
Yeah, so if it's on wheels, it's considered a vehicle and it's not allowed to be used as a dwelling unit unless you're in a certain zone that allows that, a mobile home zone, basically. So yeah, a vehicle is not allowed to be used as a dwelling unit in most residential zones. But if you put it on a foundation, as she mentioned, that could be permitted. There's just some nuance and things to look into if you're looking at this route, because there's different regulations for manufactured housing, for example. In some cases, as long as it's been produced in a way that meets HUD standards, then it doesn't need to meet building code. However, if it doesn't have that stamp of approval from HUD, then it does need to meet our building code. So there's still some things you need to make sure you're compliant with.
Great. Is there any way I could email you, Corin, about that to ask more questions? Okay, thank you.
I'll put my email in the chat, and anyone with questions, feel free to follow up.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I see Griselda, your hand up. Griselda, we'll come back
Yes,
to you.
can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now we can hear you. Great.
I'm sorry, I had pressed the mute button. I'm sorry. Okay, I have a question. I have a severely autistic son, and I'm trying to get him into being a little bit more, well, trying to be more independent. My question would be, how soon can I get the funding to start making him his own casita? Is it in July 1st, or how could I go about that? I mean, I'm really pretty much ready to go. You know, I'm really interested in this program to help him out.
Yes, Anne, do you want to speak to that, or Ray?
So one clarification, right now, the program we're trying to get off the ground is just for existing structures. And so new structures, sadly, that's something where Shay and Wes, the program that we're talking about today with the land trust, we're looking at options on how to make that easier. But for our program, based on what we're trying to get off sooner than later, it's to help existing ADUs or existing guest quarters make improvements.
Okay, okay, so that's gonna be in the future, more like during like beginning of July 1st or something? Is that
Well,
what I'm understanding?
so it's a little bit confusing, Griselda, because it is two separate programs. And yes, so I guess what I would recommend is that you stay in contact with us, and we are going to be trying to go after potential funds for some of the, again, like I said, it would probably be similar for us where you'd have to income qualify. But yeah, stay connected with us, and we'll figure it out. Or maybe there's a financial product out there that works for you, but we can't have that conversation. That's a different, more in-depth conversation. But
Yeah.
please stay connected with us.
Okay, and what about the models? Are you guys gonna have those somewhat like the plans in July 1st, or like the generic plans, or is that what
I'm actually working for our program. I will be working on some, and I'm
I
hoping
really like that one. I really like the one with that I saw in the pictures.
Oh,
the one
great,
that you
thank
guys got up on Dunbar.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have an email that you can, send me, because we do have a little bit of foundation that was going to be started for a casita, and since it's already kind of existing, I'm wondering if I can get a like some kind of a grant just to finish it up, because the walls are already there and so is the foundation.
Okay, great. Yes, let's stay connected, and yes, I'll put my email in the chat as well. Thank you, Griselda.
Okay, thank you.
All of our emails in the chat right now.
Okay, let me see. How do I get to that?
On the bottom bar, there's on the ribbon that you see mute, stop video, security, participants, and then chat. It's a little icon with the bubble, the little like a text box bubble. You click on that, and then you'll see the chat there. Allison, I see Allison's iPhone. Your hand is up. Hello, Allison, are you on mute?
Yeah.
Okay, it's breaking up a little bit. Can we move on to, hello?
Yeah, hi. I chatted. Yeah, can now?
Yes, we can hear you better now. Yes, Allison, go ahead. Okay, we might have to move on. Oscar, would you like to go? Medina? Hi, Oscar.
I just want to say thank you for the information, the presentation, very informative. And I wanted to.
Can you hear me now? Can you see me? Can
Oh, sorry.
You can't
Allison,
hear me, huh? Oh,
we moved on because
volume was down. Okay, so wait.
Sorry, Allison, you're breaking up really bad. We're having a very hard time hearing you, so I moved on for now. Sorry, go ahead, Oscar.
Thank you, Shay. I'm really interested in getting the technical support. My partner and I, we just bought a home on the west side with a lot that will allow us to build a 1,000 square foot casita, and we're really interested in like being able to just like access some of the pre-approved plans, and also to like work with a list of builders that are trustworthy. I've had some pretty bad experiences with some like contractors that well, not contractors, just like stuff that I didn't know how to do, that I paid someone to do, and it didn't come out as right. And so I just wanted to thank you for this program, and I'm really looking forward to being part of the Escuelita.
Oh, thank you, Oscar, so much. Sorry, I muted you by accident. I didn't mean to. Yes, please participate. We'd love for you to be there. Thank you. Esther, you had a question? Hi, Esther.
Hi, Shay.
So nice to see so many
Hi.
friends and family on the line.
Yeah. My question has been answered already, but I'm very excited about this and I want to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Esther. Please attend our Escuelita. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, Elia?
Yes, so I have a question. We already have a existing, well, it was a garage, and it was built when the property was built in 42, and it's right on the property line. So I'm thinking we would have to do something with the I don't know, what was that? The
Design development option.
well, yeah.
Did someone mention this to you already? Mhm. Yes. Yeah, so if you have a casita that's already built and it doesn't meet certain zoning standards and in particular setbacks, there is a process to deal with that. But it does require another step to get it permitted. But that's absolutely something we can talk to anyone about.
Okay, so this one is really not a casita because all it has is a bathroom. There's no kitchen facilities.
I'm hearing some feedback. We'll move on with Fabiola. Fabiola, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I had typed a question in the actual chat. I don't know if it got answered, but it was, would like a self-standing garage be considered an existing, or would it be more of a new construction if it has to be completely like redone?
Is the garage already being used as a residence? It's already been converted to a dwelling?
Not at all.
In that case, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Shay. Yeah, so Fabiola, I believe in that case, especially related to kind of the cool roof requirements, it would be considered a conversion of an existing structure for that. It wouldn't be a brand new structure.
But in that case, there might be some nuance in terms of the extent of building plans you would have to submit. If it hasn't been built out as a living space, you would have to submit building plans. If you don't have electrical and things like that, we would need more plans than in the case of a structure that's already been built and is used as a living space. And then if your question is about the HCD program, I would let Ann or Ray respond to that.
Yeah, it would have to be an existing structure that we would just come in and rehab. So it would probably already have its bathroom. It would already have a kitchen. And so we'd want to come over and just reinforce that and reinforce those systems. Maybe add heating, add cooling. We can do stuff like that. But it would be enhancing or just rehabbing what's existing there.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Okay, Varo, you've had your hand up for a while. Thank you for being patient. Go. Do you have a question?
Yeah. What happened if the existing building is on the line property, like it's not on, it's too close to the owner's the neighbor's property?
There is a special approval that you'll need for that. So there is a process for that, but it will take, it's just an additional step you would need to do as part of the amnesty program.
And do you need the neighbors to sign to approve?
We do ask neighbors they all have a chance to provide input. It is still up to the department to approve or deny the request to basically encroach into your setback. But yes, there is notification to all neighbors and they have a chance to provide comments.
So if the neighbors doesn't approve, we cannot go through. Is that right?
I wouldn't say that completely. There's a little more gray area. So we'd want to look at your particular site and kind of see what the issues are. So I would encourage you to take a look at the handout we shared and then contact us. And if you have photographs, that's helpful, so we can kind of look at what the issues are on your site. And any plans you have, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gary, did you want to have a question as well?
Okay, you can hear me now. Great to hear this is going. So can you tell us how much those cute little units cost to build and how big they are?
Oh my goodness, I don't want to be, this is the question of the day, right? I did not want to be asked this question. So this little unit that I am working on ended up being quite a bit more expensive than I think we had hoped and anticipated. It's around 560 square feet, and it's gonna probably come in like around $100,000, which seems pretty high, I think, for a lot of folks, maybe depending where you're at. However, to put that in context, today, if you go out in the market and look for a home, you're never gonna find one for $100,000. And secondly, we put a lot of bells and whistles in that design that if we were to design, and that's why we're gonna be holding a focus group with the builders. I have already, Varo's one of them, 4 or 5 builders I've been talking with who are really interested in building these. And we wanna, as we're developing the plans, we're gonna vet them with the builders and make sure that we've done whatever we can to cut costs and create a very efficient unit and a very efficient floor plan. And I think we could get it down. I think we could get that price down a lot if we build smaller and we don't go with this tall of ceilings. And there's a lot of things we can do. We could probably, I was talking with the builder today on site actually about that project. It was, that's Katsu who built that one. He's really great. Yeah, that's Katsu's project.
Down the street.
Really, yeah, he's really great. And he, we were saying we could cut maybe about 20,000-30,000 if we again went with a more basic design and a more basic unit. And once you get down to below 100,000, now you're really getting competitive with what's being offered with the prefab units and with everything else that's out there online. My personal interest is to see these projects be site built, because in the long term that's going to add way more value to our communities, to the homeowners. It supports our local building economy and our small builders. And so I'm much more interested in seeing these projects be site built, but that's my personal preference.
Well, I think my actual question is, I'm interested in working with with artists to create live workspace that we could put in this in accessory dwelling units. So I think the idea would be to marry, maybe it is a marriage, the artists with an existing owner to put such a dwelling such as what you've built on a lot. So I'd like to see how that model we could work that model out, because it's very difficult to buy several units now at approximately the same cost as what you've developed there. Existing kind of small 1-bedroom lots, units are going for about $100,000 a unit right now. So you're right.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I've done the math and the research, and honestly, what's being offered nationally and through the factories is pretty poor quality, and it's very expensive. When you do the math, those units are coming in around $300 a square foot, and I know our local builders can build it for around $200 a square foot. So I think that it makes a lot more sense to work with folks here locally. We have a ton of experienced builders and again, trustworthy people. And I think the best way to get to know contractors is go see their work, visit their projects, see what they're doing, see what they've already built, talk to them, meet them in person. It's ideally when you get a construction document set, you do put it to bid, and you interview people and make sure you're comfortable with whoever you select.
Could I get a photo of those units?
Yeah. I'll send you
Okay.
some stuff.
Thank you.
Gary.
Go to someone else. Thank you very much.
Shay, I just wanted to add to that question that something else we're going to try to be exploring with the Escuelita is that, some people will be inspired to act as owner builders, and we want to be able to open up the Escuelita for them as well, to really guide them, if they're so inclined and feel like they have a skill set, to encourage them, and that does cut costs. And the thing about ADUs, they're generally small projects. They're good, they're good starter projects, small scale projects for owners who want to take it on, some of it or much of it on themselves.
Yeah, thank you, Wes. That's a super good point. You can, again, if you don't hire a contractor, you can save a lot of money, but you won't save time. I will say, I have owner builders who are truly building the projects themselves, and it does take longer. I mean, again, the beauty of working with the contractor is that you'll get it done much quicker, and if you're counting on that rental income, you'll be getting that income all the much quicker. So go ahead, Varo, you had your hand up.
Just adding to that, Wensley say, I think it's true. Like as a builder, it's important to the owner to participate, because building the whole thing is something, but detail the project would cost a lot of money too. Like, I don't know if it makes sense. Like if you structural build something, it's like a little bit less pricey than adding the tile and the bathroom, the paint, the molding, all the little stuff that maybe the owner can help, or maybe find someone just to finish it. And like, I think the Escuelita project is a great idea, and I would like to be part of that too, because I think it's important to do it yourself, because that way we're learning, and at the same time you feel good to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about that as well, because there's a lot of things, like I could see a lot of partnerships forming where maybe we get the builder to build the shell, the structure and the roof, and do all the parts that would be hard for an owner. But maybe the owner can come in and do some of the drywall or the paint, or, there's lots of ways that costs can be saved, when you start putting in your own sweat equity. So, yeah, and again, the details, that's why it's really hard to do cost estimating with construction, because really the quality and your expectation of finishes, and how nice do you want the tile, how nice do you want the flooring, how nice do you want the the sink or the counters, all those things can vary in price so much. So yeah, so I really am excited to be going through those things with a little group of folks, and we can all learn together, because I still also myself have a lot to learn from everyone. So thank you. I see Bill's hand up.
Yes, I'm sorry. I asked a question earlier, but I stayed on, and it's created more questions. So I am one of those people you described. I've remodeled my own house, every house that I've moved in. So I have done almost all the work, except for major things that I can't get to. So one thing I've never done, everything I've done has been non-permitted, because it didn't need permitted, the stuff that I did. So this is the first time I'm going through the permitting process. The Arizona room that's already been built, that I'm going to be adding a kitchen, and the kitchen inside the Arizona room, and I'm adding at the end of the Arizona room a small bathroom and a small closet / laundry room. So I've never really gone through the permitting process. So that's the help that I need, is work my way through the system to get the permitted is done as fast as possible. As I stated earlier, I hired a draftsman, and he drew me up some plans, and I submitted those. I need help getting through the process from here on out. So that's where I had a question about how I get the help to work through that system.
Yes, thank you, Bill. Yes, that will be one of our focus groups, will be permitting. And I also am a draft person, so I'm very familiar with getting through permitting. It is a real challenge right now, also with COVID. we used to be able to get, go into the development services counter and get, a lot of your questions answered in a day that same day that now take a while to get answered. So it is also just a really challenging time right now with permitting, but at the same time, I would love to, again, to go through, that'll be one of the things we'll be going through, and helping people navigate the property research online. That's where, any revisions that are made, that's where they're updated, and where you can research your permit, you can find your permit status. And, so again, I would be happy to share that knowledge and help people as much as we can get through that process of permitting.
So how do I get into the focus group? I'm sorry, you probably mentioned it earlier, but I've been.
We'll be sending follow-up emails and the dates, and then similar to this, you'll get an email with the date and the Zoom link.
Okay, and one last question. As we're in the meeting, I saw that I got an email, so they need revisions. I haven't been able to read the email, but I got the plans back, I guess, and it needs revision. So that's good news that it's already come back. So any help that I can get as soon as possible when I get this, I'm not even sure what to do now that I have the revisions. So any help that I can get would be great.
Yeah, so, well, I'll answer, we have a little bit of time, but yeah, once you get the revision, send it along immediately to your draft person, and they'll pick it up and then they'll resubmit for you. But yeah, you just kind of gotta be following and tracking it in the property research online, their system, and then, but your draft person should take care of that for you.
Yeah, and really quickly in regards to the focus group, if you log into that survey, at the end somewhere, you can actually indicate that you're interested in the focus groups and then which ones you're interested in. That would really help us be able to get back to you specifically about which one you like.
I'm sorry, in the survey in the chat or the email that we're getting, or where is that survey?
I'll repost it right now in the chat. We have a survey, and you can click in there which focus groups you're interested in being a part of.
Great. Yeah, I'm on the phone, so I'll do a screenshot and do that later. So thank you. Sorry for taking a lot of time from everybody.
I think that's it, and it's 7. Wes and I think Jessica, we're gonna stay online. If anyone else had any burning questions, we'll stay a little bit after, but otherwise, this has been great, and thank you everyone for participating.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the chat just blowing up with questions and answers being exchanged. So we are so happy there's so much interest, and yeah, there's a lot of creative problem solving for many cities that have passed these ordinances. It's been a years-long process to kind of target what kind of incentives or what barriers need to be removed to facilitate more, construction of ADUs. So it's just, this is the beginning of a long journey. But we're so glad people are already so interested.
Thank you, everyone. Yep, great to see the interest. And yes, we definitely want to learn and continue to refine these regulations potentially in the future based on what we find and how things are working for people.
I actually do have a question. Now going through the meeting, I realize that it's probably not the right meeting to ask the question. However, I'm still wondering about expanding zoning for MH designation. Motorhomes, right? Manufactured homes, to be able to use them as ADUs, but let's say that they can't afford the foundation right away. And so now we have a manufactured home, right? Still on wheels. And my understanding is that on wheels, it's considered recreational, therefore nobody can be living in the premises 100% of the time. And another problem is zoning. Where do you park these things? And from what I've done in the research, it shows that we have very few MH appropriate zones. And I'm wondering if the city is in any way looking at, just like they did for the ADUs, expanding the zoning, doing it for that particular demographic.
That's a great question. And, you know, one thing we didn't bring up tonight is the city's housing affordability strategy. I don't know if Anne is still here, but HCD just recently released a housing affordability strategy. Actually, Mayor and Council adopted this strategy, and it was also something that there was a number of community meetings about. There was a lot of input, and one aspect of that was there's a few strategies in there that relate to this question. One is related to looking at our zoning and looking at other ways to adapt our zoning to allow more flexible housing types. Things like missing middle housing that could include townhouses, bungalow courts, maybe even what you're talking about. There's also a strategy in there around looking at innovative housing types like modular, prefab, manufactured housing. So yeah, there's we're definitely interested in more ways to promote affordable housing, and I think there's definitely work being done in this area, and they want to share that plan. And we also have a housing commission that you know, is going to play a big part in implementing a lot of these strategies.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I also saw some comments in the chat about questioning the affordability. That comment comes up a lot, but honestly, it's so case by case. I built one in my house for less than $20,000. So again, the price and the cost of construction can vary widely depending on whether you're doing a remodel, whether you're, you know, doing a garage conversion versus a new build, depending on how fancy you go versus how basic, how you phase it over time. There's, as Bill was explaining in his own personal story, is that in experience, people also do this incrementally. People will, you know, work on a project a little bit at a time to make it more feasible over time. So there's so many ways that I really believe that people can approach this as a tool.
And another thing that's just, you know, committing to the larger affordability factor in general is the more we can increase and meet the demands, the housing stock demands, the more we will see prices, rent costs, and housing prices stabilize. So it's about creating a new tool for meeting that demand as well.
Okay, go ahead, Varo.
I just adding something to that. It's like something that happens before. It was like when you want to build something that is an existing but is not by coding, you had to fix in a lot of things to make a code happen. Is that something that is going to change at this case? Like, it's especially the cement. Like, it's always the cement issue. Like, because when you're building something that is already have the cement and you think the cement is going to be good enough, do you have to like break it and start over, or like can you build it on top of the what you have? Does that make sense? Because I mean, by code you're supposed to have like a foundation, a really big, where is the support, and a lot of these cases I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, like that you already have the cement but it's not good enough for the house.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do we still have the city staff on board? I think it would be a case-by-case basis depending on if it was existing or, you know, what the situation. That's where it gets very gray. I talked about this with corn, especially with the existing projects. It gets very gray very quickly.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be case by case. So, you know, that's a great point. And what we're doing right now is we're working, you know, a few people have contacted us about getting units permitted that were unpermitted. So we're working with a few people on a case-by-case basis. Feel free to contact myself or Dan if you have a property, like it sounds like you do, that you're looking to permit. And we're just kind of working through some of those issues. Based on what we're learning over the next few months, we hope to issue a little more comprehensive guidance to people on how to use this amnesty program. And most likely there's going to be a few different pathways that will depend on the condition of your structure and the status in terms of how it was originally permitted. So, there will probably be some simple ways and then some other ways, pathways that are a little more complex. And that's just because we do have to ensure safety of these units.
Okay, if there's no other questions, should we go ahead and end the meeting? I didn't want to make everyone stay, so yeah, feel